Jesus is the best. Your boy MoFresh. Thank you guys for tuning in. So it seems like this congressman doesn't know the law as a congressman. It's almost as bad as a police officer not knowing the law when they're stopping somebody. And you know how they make those videos and the police officer looks stupid. This kind of sounds this bad. I want to know what you guys think about it. As always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. It's a very interesting topic right here.
So again, the question, Michael, do you feel comfortable this is constitutional?
Not only do I feel comfortable, I'm happy to see that the federal government is stepping in where the local and state governments have failed. This is one of the main things that the federal government is for. The Insurrection Act has been invoked many times throughout American history by both parties. Eisenhower, Kennedy, it's been called in by, it's been requested rather by Democrat governors. And so that's really unsurprising. And what we're looking at here is issue compounding on issue, because we've had this massive invasion of foreign nationals, many of whom are working with foreign terrorist organizations, the criminal cartels that control the southern border. We have crime spiraling out of control generally in places like Chicago, which in terms of the number of murders leads the country, something like 110,000 gang members in Chicago alone. And you're seeing an uptick in political violence, particularly from the left, reflected in multiple surveys and then obviously in the horrific incidents that we've seen recently. Most recently, the leftist who was going to bomb the cathedral in Washington, D.C., but of course, going back to Charlie's assassination and others. So you're having a lot of disorder. This is why we have the Insurrection Act. It's why we have the federal government, because I think people are debating between these two false options. Either we can all sit together and sing Kumbaya and nobody can enforce the law, or we're going to have violence. But that's not really the case. The two options you have are you can have just, prudent state violence, that is to say, cops enforcing the law and putting the bad guys in jail, or you can have what you're seeing increasingly celebrated by the left, which is vigilante violence, which is unjust. And I want the just kind. I want an orderly society, and I don't think we should just consign people who happen to live in failed blue cities to misery and rape and murder and all the rest of it.
And I understand the original assertion, that's not mine, but the problems are like when you're zip tying children, when you're grappling grandmas to the ground, that visual is a terrible visual. No matter which way you try to spin it, you remove the humanity out of everything. So yeah, he's talking about Chicago like the whole city is like in insurrection. I mean, objectively, I'm going to say it's not. I was just there. It's a beautiful city.
Okay. Sri Tanada, your response to that?
But this is
well, look, militarization of our cities is not the answer. Just yesterday, a mother who's in America for 30 years, she was going to a grocery store to buy some ingredients so she can make meatball soup for her kids. And ISIS detained her. She's now behind in the ICE detention center. I saw her daughter crying. These are not gang members. These are not hardened criminals. They're arresting 17-year-old high school kids, putting away American citizens, 4, 5-year-old American citizens, kids who are suffering from leukemia in the ICE detention center, losing their doctor's appointments. You can talk all about gang members. Nobody. Everybody wants.
No, I wouldn't talk about that. Look, just to stop you there, but I want to talk specifically about the deployment of federal troops, not necessarily the wider separate issue of what ICE is doing with undocumented people in the United States. I've debated that a lot. We can touch on that in a moment, but just specifically on the deployment of federal troops in states which are not DC, where obviously the federal government can do that. The president has that power. There is this raging argument now about whether it is constitutional, whether it is lawful for the president of the United States to do what Trump is now rolling out in places like Chicago. What is your view of that?
It's not only not legal, it's not only unconstitutional, but more importantly, it's not even good business, because this costs so much putting federal troops in cities. Instead of that, if federal government can give the grants so that local police, law enforcement can hire more people. Right now, they are severely understaffed. They don't have the resources they need to keep our cities safe. Now, in a long-term process...
But aren't you answering your question? I mean, aren't you
I think you're
making
the point.
Right. I mean, in a way, what you just said is the rationale for doing it, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, so you're gonna see him give this like weird smile the whole time. I think it could be a nervous smile. It could just be his resting face, but he's giving this smile like completely clueless. And this is this is why I'm a little bit more conservative. But I'm not on the far right. I'm not on the far left. I'm a little bit, if I had to make the chart, I'm like right here, like a little bit to the right. But yeah, it's because you see these weird congressmen. Like, how did you get in? Just watch. Sorry, I just have to say, look, he's gonna do this weird smile this whole time. Sorry.
they're under-resourced. They don't have enough people. They can't control the crime. Donald Trump is recognizing this, and he's doing something about it. And I'm curious about how many regular Americans who live in some of these very crime-ridden inner cities in America are really as opposed to it as you sound like you are. Because if you've got a lot of crime going on around you, and the police are woefully under-resourced, why would you object to seeing some troops on the streets to just try and restore order and perhaps send a real message to criminals?
See, putting military and reserves all over America, major American cities, and militarization of our country is not the solution. The solution is empower the local law enforcement, give them the funds that they need. It's the funding that needs to come so we can have a more long-term, long-lasting solution to it.
Congressman, are you familiar with the Insurrection Act?
Yes, I am. And
so what do you think that's for? You said that this was illegal. You said it was not unconstitutional and illegal for the federal government to send National Guard into cities and states. What do you think the Insurrection Act is for?
Well, look, this is a issue that the local government should be handling. This is an issue.
What is the answer to
I don't think you understand the Insurrection Act.
Right, to Michael's. Well, let me just ask. I mean, Congressman, do you actually know what the Insurrection Act says?
Yes, but this is the.
Hang on. What does it say?
Well, look, what we saw happen in January 6th in the Congress. That's insurrection.
No, that's not the question. The question is, are you familiar? Obviously, the government is citing the Insurrection Act as the empowerment to do what it's doing. Are you familiar with what the Insurrection Act allows?
Yes, I am. But look, this president has used all kinds of excuses to break the law. This president has used...
No, but that is the law. So what is the law, Congressman? You say you're familiar with the Insurrection Act, but you don't seem to be able to describe what it does, and you're...
Hold on, guys. Like, this is why we're losing our minds when it comes to politics. That's why they're in the government shutdown. It's not just the liberals, and it's like the left, Democrats, and it's not just the conservatives, the Republicans, the right. It's all these weirdos, man. I'm telling you, bro. They can't give an answer to save their life. Even if people are on their side. Like, first of all, to be honest, even as a somewhat conservative, I actually agree with them. I'm more like a Thomas Jefferson. I don't like the government all in my business. I don't like the government sending troops or whatever into my state. I actually don't like that. Like, bro, stay over there. Like, we'll handle it. And if they're not handling it, let us handle it. Like, I don't know. I just don't like big government. I don't like big government. I do not like big government. I really don't. But so I would actually lean more towards this guy's side, but this is the part that's just so hard to support these weirdos in office. And I don't really mean he's a weirdo. I just think what he's doing is weird. And thus, by de facto, he is becoming a weirdo because he's just not answering the question, or they're all trying to get us emotional. Like, well, you see what happened on January 6th. Or do you? Well, Donald Trump is but like, stop with the talking points, with the clickbaits, with all this stuff. That is why in record numbers in all the swing states, people voted exactly for the same guy that you're just like in your mind about, is because people actually really don't trust these guys. You see what I'm saying? Like, we really don't trust guys like this. They're asking him a simple question, and it seems like he doesn't know it. So his entire, what it appears in this video, is his entire congressional seat looks like he got there based off of emotion alone. which is terrible.
You're actually contradicting it. So what do you think the Insurrection Act does?
Look, the issue here is that we need our cities safe. Americans want.
Well, Congressman, with all due respect,
amazing.
that's not an answer to the question. I mean, if you
Michael,
don't look,
can you lay out what you believe allows Donald Trump to act
well,
so
hang on,
unlawfully?
Jack. I'm going to come to you very shortly, but just to be clear, Congressman, it's a pretty simple question that Michael posed, which is the government are citing the Insurrection Act as the rationale and the legal tool by which they can do what they're doing. You said it's illegal and wrong, and they shouldn't be doing it. But you seem to be struggling to explain what the Insurrection Act actually is. And Michael, quite rightly, is saying, well, can you just tell us?
Well, whatever it is, when the National Guards are picking up trash and the National Guards are watering the flowers, that is not Insurrection Act, and that's not what this is meant to be.
But do you know what it is, the act?
Yeah.
What is it?
When there is an insurrection, the government has powers to use military, use reserve to address those situations. And this is clearly not the situation here. What we need to do is empower local law enforcement.
Okay, Michael, your response to that.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop the video here because the whole entire point of this was to show that, guys, I mean, for the life of me, man, for the freaking life of me, you guys, the politicians out here, man, it took him that long just to answer the first question. Like, I'm over. This is my personal views on everything. I think what's happening with the immigration with ICE is wrong. I don't believe in the rollout of it. I know it's difficult. I know it will always be difficult to enforce the law. We don't like substitute teachers. We don't like we never liked anybody who would force us to do something, right? Against our ebb and flow. However, this is not that. I think what's happening, maybe it could just be terrible PR, like terrible PR, the worst PR ever. But this is like the hate for cops on steroids because of how it looks. You are seeing children being zip tied. You are seeing, from what they're saying, the reports, you are, and you are seeing these images of moms and grandmas being punched just because they don't have papers, but they're more clean and did more for the country than people who are here legally. The only difference was they were born. But again, I do believe in processes, and we can't have a country without rule and law. But that's why we have to add comprehension. That's why we have to add comprehension to the laws. We can't just blanket things out and just say, yep, well, you're black, you can't do this. That's what they did to us. There was no comprehension of the person or their character. They're being judged off of these weird, arbitrary, inhuman things. There are concepts that we created, social contracts that we created to allow us to be able to engage with one another with some level of security, but they're not really human characteristics. So back in the day, right, like people with my skin color or my nose or my hair texture would have been discriminated just based on the race. The law says you can't be next to me, and then they would slap me or do something weird. And all Dr. Martin Luther King said, regardless of his personal life, all he said was, I just want to be judged by the content of my character. So if the content of my character is bad, no matter what race I am, then yeah, bro, like, watch out, step aside. But that's how they're treating everybody right now just because of a paper slip. Like, these are people who've been here for 30 years, have tax records for 30 years, but then they are being treated as if they were the lowest or the worst of criminals, as if they are these gang members. Like, no, bro, like, get the gang members, but leave auntie, leave uncle, leave them abuela, leave tío, leave tía, like, leave them away. Like, leave them out of this. Leave me, like, leave them out of it. What do the kids have to do, bro? Like, do what you said you were gonna do, bro. Get the criminals out. So now, for me, and I would say for me as a conservative, that's why I'm not really rocking with the new immigration stuff, because the rollout is terrible, the PR is terrible. They're rolling in masked up, and I understand because they're going in. If you're going in with criminals and you want to be masked up, I understand that. But you're masked up, going on knocking at the front of freaking Home Depot. That's the issue that I have. That's the issue with most Americans have. That's why even a conservative like me, if you would ask me if this was the result of the immigration reform, would I have been about it? I would have said no. And I think a lot of Americans, even conservatives, would have said no. Not in this way. But if you say you're going to get the criminals and get the criminals. Now, I'm not talking about a traffic ticket. I'm not talking about that. When I was living in Long Beach, bro, I had like 18, not parking tickets. And if I didn't have my papers, what are you going to say? I'm the criminal? Like, I'm a criminal of all criminals? Because of the crazy park. And you have to live in California. That's why, again, I don't really like California as much as I would love to. But those are some of the reasons, right? And I'm the crazy criminal because I'm 18, 19-year-old with bad character as an 18-year-old. And now my whole life. So that's what I mean by this stuff, bro. So, let me know what you guys think. I kind of went on a rant. I don't really mean to. I try to keep it on the context. But, bro, rule of thumb for all of you politicians out there, if they ask you a question, bro, just answer the question. Stop trying to get people in their emotions because people are seeing right through it. Just answer the question so that people like me can actually be on your side to support you. But I'm not going to support you if you're doing the same political game as you're claiming your opponent is doing, as you're claiming that the Republicans are doing. I see right through y'all. I think y'all are doing the same thing. So that's why I'm out of there. But let me know what y'all think. It's your boy, MoFresh TV. This is MoFresh TV, guys. Follow me on everything, TikTok, Instagram. I'll catch you on the next one.